Transnistria. What is it? Where is it? What's it got to do with the Russian invasion? Why are conservative warhawks suddenly caring about trans people? Let's go over that and go over a little bit of history, because if there's one thing this war has taught us, it's that the Russian government is, before anything else, lazy. 1991. James Cameron thrills audiences with a movie about an outmatched army winning a war against a vastly technologically superior enemy. The United States was showcasing what happens when people try that crap in the real world, and the Soviet Union is dying. Towards the end of the year, Soviet Premier Mikhail Gorbachev had a little bit of a coup on his hands. Seems that it isn't just America where authoritarians love democracy until it works against them. A gang of 8, as the conspirators of the plot would come to be known, decided they wanted to make the USSR great again, and launched a coup against the Supreme Soviet. No, that's not me being funny, that's actually what they called their version of Congress. And just like the people who put their faith in guys on their way to the Loyal Order of the Water Buffaloes, they failed. Badly. While they didn't manage to take over the Soviet Union, they did manage to destabilize it long enough that a lot of the places Russia had borrowed during the Cold War decided they'd had about enough of being ruled by invaders whose number of functioning brain cells was only matched by their blood alcohol content. Enter Moldova. Previously a part of Romania during that time in the 1800s when national borders shifted like my guts after a hard night of dark coffee and Taco Bell. It was ceded to the Russians after World War II and stayed that way until the Gang of 8 did the equivalent of trying to storm over a barricade with armed guards already aiming guns point blank at you. But, like all of the Stans and Nias that popped up in that time, the Russians, like a frat boy who lost control of his bowel movements at a house party, left a few stains in each of those now freed nations. Pockets of mass-migrated Russian speakers sent in during the Soviet Union's time of treating ethnic cleansing and population shifting like they were feng shuiing the human race. The most famous example of this in our lifetime has been in Ukraine, notably Crimea and the Donbass. But what we're concerned about now is Transnistria. Now, when I say that these people were told to hold on to the old ways, they really held on. Here's their flag, and here's a billboard hung up just a few years ago. 2 battalions of Russian soldiers operate freely in this area, right at the western border of Ukraine. More importantly, there's been a little bit of a terrorist problem lately. Now, where might we have heard something like this before? 1999! A little-known indie cartoon some hipsters might remember called SpongeBob SquarePants hits the scene. Austin Powers sets back U.S.-England relations by a half-century, and Boris Yeltsin is dying. I mean, his government is, not him. Though he probably was because of the catastrophic heart failure and alcoholism, but you get my point. He needs a successor, but none of them have the kind of charisma that he did. And especially after his impeachment, following a bribery scandal, a lot of people are worried that they'd see the same kind of infighting that led to the Gang of 8. Luckily for one of these new people anyway, a series of apartment bombings in the Moscow area galvanized support behind a then mostly unknown FSB head, known as Vladimir Putin. His brutal crackdown of the Chechens gave the Russian people the warm and fuzzy it needed after the ruinous Afghan campaign, and that made him the man Boris would appoint as his successor in the election in 1999. Problem. It didn't happen like that. See, at the time, no Chechen rebel group claimed responsibility for the attacks. Considering this was in housing for the family of Russian service members, this would have been a massive propaganda victory for the cause they could have claimed. Except none of them did. Because none of them did it. In reality, FSB agents, under the direction of Putin, planted those bombs. They had indeed planned even more bombings, and had even been caught in the act by local authorities in doing so in a failed attempt. But that was all kept under the rug until defectors spilled the tea that, frankly, just about anybody not receiving their information from RT already knew. Thanks to that, Putin got his crown, and a precedent had been made. Now let's bring it all together and find out why. As of this writing, 4 bombings have occurred in Transnistria, though none of them have been fatal. I suspect this is because the Russian government can't put as tight of a leash on any accidents should they occur like they did when they were ginning up support for the Chechen crackdowns. Regardless, they are occurring, and who's getting blamed for them? That's right, Ukraine. Some might ask, is this so that if the Russians should be able to defeat Ukraine, they could take over that region and possibly Moldova as well? No. What they're doing is getting support from the Transnistrian rebels by whipping them into a frothing frenzy and launching them, and the 2 motorized battalions, into Ukraine's western flank, all to act as diversion for the big enchilada, Odessa. This city by the sea is one of the most important territories in Ukraine, alongside Mariupol and Kyiv. Additionally, it's believed to be the site from where the team that promoted the Moskva from cruiser to submarine launched from. There are currently a small fleet of warships and amphibious vessels preparing for D-Day, or as Odessa is being watched like a hawk with some of the most powerful friendly ordnance in the entire country well within the cones of defensive fire, this will likely, for Russia, be VDV Day. Seriously, Google VDV losses in this conflict. The VDV are something between SEALs and Army Rangers in the Russian military, but you'd think they'd, to a man, been caught trying to put it to Putin's poodle for as far as Vlad the War Failure has been sending them to die en masse in half-baked assaults that read like the strategic equivalent of a guy with a Dear John letter, a half-drunk bottle of cheap whiskey, and a loaded revolver. So that's why Transnistria. Russia's foreign policy playbook on repeat like a bad YouTube short that blends its start and finish point into tricking you into watching it more than once. If you learned anything or like the presentation, give it a like. I'll read every comment and reply to as many as I possibly can. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye-bye.